This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
So now we are going to get into the killer's early life. So take it away, Beth.
John Allen Muhammad was born John Allen Williams in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to Ernest and Eva Williams, the fourth child of a Pullman train porter and an Antiguan immigrant. One of six children, he and his family moved to New Orleans when his mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. She died when he was 3 years old.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is.
Yeah, we will refer to John Allen Muhammad here on out as Muhammad, just to simplify things, but consider how easy it is to refer to him as a terrorist and a criminal because of his color and his last name. Just think about that note next time you watch the news. Moving on. After his mother's death, his father left, so Muhammad was mainly raised by his grandfather and an aunt, and it's been alleged that an uncle often beat him. He was described as a polite and well-liked individual.
In August of 1978, Muhammad enlisted in the Louisiana Army National Guard at Baton Rouge as a combat engineer. In 1981, he married his childhood sweetheart, Carol Caglier. In 1982, Muhammad was introduced to Mildred Green by a friend in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, sparks fly.
Mm-hmm.
Mildred was a beautiful young Black woman, but she says that she was deeply shy and naive and still lived at home with her mother. Having narrowly escaped being raped at 16, she was also very weary of men. Muhammad, on the other hand, was an outwardly confident National Guardsman with the ability to sweet-talk any girl who caught his eye. I think Mildred was also in the service. I believe she said that. I actually heard her interviewed in a podcast. She said that they were both in the service. I also wanted to touch on Muhammad joining the service. And I learned from my Garifuna Central American grandmother's relatives. I was at her funeral around Christmas time, an older Garifuna Central American men, that they specifically chose the USA military for the opportunity and security it provided. Immigrants can join the military in our country. And many U.S.-born people of color and immigrant people of color take advantage of what the U.S. military can offer them. It's an opportunity for a steady job, steady employment, just a better way economically. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Mildred and John Allen Muhammad had been dating for several weeks before she learned that he was still married to his childhood sweetheart, Carol, by whom he had a son. Yeah. And they had a son named Lindbergh. But he assured her that they were on the verge of splitting up. And when he was posted to Washington State, to differentiate it from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's confusing, but it's a whole different state.
It can be.
So she agreed to wait for his divorce to come through and then travel north to join him.
By the way, my mom still lives in Washington State. I went to high school there. My parents got divorced. And then they got remarried to each other and decided to start a new life in Washington State. And basically, I haven't been back there since I graduated high school. And then I returned for my father's funeral. That's how much I hate the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
Wow. I found it to be a very lonely place. It's very, very white. I felt it was very racist, and I actually never forgave Washington State for it. So that's why I just never went back. So my mom's like, she's like, Wendy, what are the kids doing this summer? Are they going to come and visit us? Hell no. I love you, Mom. Just come here to Arizona. I'm not taking my kids there. Anyway, where were we? Okay. So they were married in March 1988. As the months and years passed, Mildred discovered her husband was not the contented, self-assured man that she thought him to be. For one thing, he was illiterate. So she had to teach him to read and help him bluff his way through military exams.
In 1991, he served in the Gulf War with a company that dismantled Iraqi chemical warfare rockets. While in the U.S. Army, Muhammad was trained as a mechanic, a truck driver, and a specialist metal worker. He qualified with the Army's standard rifle, the M16, earning the Expert Rifleman's Badge. This rating is the Army's highest of 3 levels of basic rifle marksmanship for a soldier. So pretty good.
So clearly he was a pretty smart, intelligent,
capable guy.
Skilled, capable guy. He had a varied Army career as a combat engineer, a specialty that involves everything from building roads and removing mines to repairing vehicles and setting up water supplies. A fellow soldier said Muhammad was considered a proficient mechanic, particularly on Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles.
Muhammad was honorably discharged from the Army on April 24, 1994, after 17 years of service with the rank of sergeant. For his service in the Army, Muhammad received the following awards: Army Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Overseas Ribbon, Non-Commissioned Officers Professional Development Ribbon, and Army Achievement Medal. Pretty good.
That's a lot of ribbons. Yeah, that's a lot of awards. It's a lot of awards. Neighbors and others who knew Muhammad in the 1990s described him as quiet and a disciplined man, a Muslim convert and auto mechanic who showed no sign of a violent streak. Bob Bianchi lived down the street from the family between 1994 and 2000 in comfortable Huapacho Estates, a community built around a natural lake in Tacoma. Tacoma.
That's
Bianchi,
the place, huh?
that's one of the places.
One of the places.
Right. Bianchi 47. But actually, Tacoma, I'll tell you one thing. So I was my high school's second Black varsity cheerleader in a 40-year period. Ever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm not shy. So the high school I went to was in Spokane. So I was the second Black varsity. Spokane, Washington's on the east side, and Tacoma and Seattle are on the west side. And we would go to Tacoma a lot for like cheer competitions. And I remember just my mouth watering because I was so happy to see other Black cheerleaders, and they were all from Tacoma and Seattle. And I was like, oh my God, you guys have big butts and big thighs just like me and braids. Oh my God. So maybe if I had lived on the other side of the state, maybe I wouldn't feel so,
probably.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't feel so salty about the state of Washington, but sorry, I didn't. So I do.
So anyway,
Bianchi 47 called him a very pleasant neighbor who remained kind of private over the years.
Hey, you called me private.
Do I need to be worried? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Private McPriverson's Beth here. Just found out where she lives.
Uh-oh. All right. So Muhammad started up a mobile auto repair business, which he ran
that's
with the
cool.
help of Mildred, who kept the books. And I understand at first they did really well.
Okay.
In addition, he operated a karate school with Felix Strozier. Strozier noticed that whenever Muhammad came into the room, his son, John Jr., would always come to attention military style, which indicated to him that Muhammad was a stern disciplinarian.
Yeah, and well, my dad was a black man from the South, or with Southern roots, and a military guy, and he expected us to do the same. So
Right.
that's not too unusual, but wait,
Not
it gets
unusual.
worse. John Allen and Mildred had converted to Islam together. While Mildred Muhammad saw religion as a means for peaceful social change, her husband was convinced that America's injustices could be overcome only by subversion and violence.
Watch the world's biggest tennis stars clash in the California desert at the BNP Paribas Open, live on Tennis Channel.
How do they get to these shots?
Tune in daily for exclusive first ball to last coverage from Indian Wells and witness all of the jaw-dropping action as the game's top men and women square off at one of the greatest events in sports. It's tennis magic you need to see to believe. The BNP Paribas Open, live on Tennis Channel and streaming on the Tennis Channel app.
Hi, I'm Matt Harris. Seton Tucker and I host the podcast Impact of Influence, which for 2 years covered in depth Alec Murdaugh, who was eventually convicted in 2023 of murdering his wife Maggie and son Paul. That story continues to evolve, and we will cover that. Plus, we will tell you stories of other true crime events that have happened in the South. Please join us on Impact of Influence. And give us a follow on the Impact of Influence Facebook page.
In 1987, at the age of 27, he joined the Nation of Islam. In 2001, he changed his surname from Williams to Muhammad.
The Nation of Islam, also referred to as NOI, is an African American movement and organization that combines elements of traditional Islam with Black nationalist ideas and race-based theology. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, an American nonprofit legal advocacy organization specializing in civil rights and public interest litigation, since its founding in 1930, the Nation of Islam, or NOI, has grown into one of the wealthiest and best-known organizations in Black America. Its theology of innate Black superiority over whites and the racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric of its leaders have earned the NOI a position in the ranks of organized hate.
Yeah, and I've actually listened to interviews on podcasts of representatives from the Southern Poverty Law Center who say that the only reason, like they don't consider all the other things that the NOI does, just the fact that they are perceived to hate white people, so that's why they're perceived
Jews
as a hate
and
group.
gays
and Jews, right? Yeah, so they don't. So let me get into it. Okay. Welcome to Culture Corner. Yeah, welcome to Culture Corner with Wendy and Beth. Get a pillow. The Nation of Islam, as Beth said, is a Black religious group, an American Black religious group. We have to remember that Islam is a religion of peace practiced by millions of people. The NOI was started by Elijah Muhammad in the 30s or 40s, and then in the 50s, Malcolm Little Carroll, aka Malcolm X, joined. And then let's not forget about Colin Kaepernick's predecessor, Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali. The face of the group is Louis Farrakhan, and he is quite problematic. I do not disagree with anybody who says that. He is problematic for his positions on patriarchy, anti-Semitism, Black superiority over specifically white people. However, we also have to note the work that the NOI has done in trying to stabilize Black communities and stabilizing infrastructure, especially in communities that have been ravaged by white supremacy. They have a presence in prison, and their goal is to stabilize and support people within the prisons and also when they get out, giving them jobs and a place to go. They do have a Black superiority ideology. They are registered, as Beth said, as a hate group by the SPLC, but to Black people, it's really not that simple. Al Sharpton, Jim Brown, and Mr. Farrakhan and Jesse Jackson are the Black dudes that are called upon to be the voices of Black people in times and places where there was a traumatic event or strife or examples of Black oppression. And one of the things that the U.S. has done throughout history is systematically demonizing Black groups and Black leaders. The most recent one I can think of is Colin Kaepernick, or that right. Waffle House, the dude at Waffle House who saved all those people, who was a Black dude. It's easy for the media and authorities to demonize anything Black. And so Black people understand the critiques of the NOI, but we also understand the good that they have done for Black lives. And given how complicated life is as a Black person in the United States, can accept the complexities for what they are in a way that maybe white America, aka trash ass Meghan McCain on The View a couple weeks ago towards Tamika Mallory can't understand. So if anybody is not familiar with that exchange, Google Tamika Mallory on The View, and you will see. I mean, Meghan McCain was just like, well, because Tamika Mallory was doing she was in charge of the Women's March, and Meghan McCain was trying to say like, well, you're not being very welcoming to conservative women. Conservative women want to be a part of this, and you ride with Louis Farrakhan. And Tamika was trying to explain what I just said. Like, it's really not that simple. Like, I denounce his views on hating anybody, but I also have to recognize that the organization has done a lot of really good things in the Black community, and Meghan McCain was just refusing to accept her answer. So allyship can exist through or between the Nation of Islam, women's groups, Jewish groups, LGBTQ groups, with empathy and solidarity. I really do believe that. Another thing, Black people have to compartmentalize all the time. And one of the examples I wanted to lay out to you was D.L. Hughley on a show the other day was asked, how do you continue to listen to Michael Jackson and R. Kelly's music after all the horrible things that they did? And, how can you sing these songs and after all the terrible shit that they did? And he was like, the same way I can sing the fucking national anthem. Right. There's different degrees and levels, and we just sort of have to maneuver our way as best we can without being we're all just trying not to be awful. So Black people have to compartmentalize on a constant basis, and the way that Black people in general view the NOI is no different. So, oh boy, I'm so sorry that went so long. But
that's all right, and that's totally fair. I get that. The only issue I have with it is it makes race relations more difficult. When you're having somebody who's saying one race is superior to another, either way, there's pretty much no conversation after that. What are you going to say?
But I think that younger progressives understand that we can have a conversation moving forward on We can take the good that the NOI has done, and we can denounce the bad things that they have done, and we can sort of move the conversation using the good elements forward.
Yeah, I just think it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
I just wish it wasn't part of it.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I wish that those negative things were not a part of it as well.
Because I was just thinking about like the feminist movement. Feminists, just saying that women are equal to men. Like, we're not the same, but we should be treated equal. And that you had the militant feminists saying women are better than men. And then all of a sudden, feminist became a bad word. It just doesn't help.
Well, yeah, it doesn't help. But then you also had, Susan B. Anthony. I get excited when I find a Susan B. Anthony coin, but we can't forget that she was super racist. She said no black man is going to get a voting right before a woman. And the black feminists around her were like, hey sis, like what about us? And she was like, screw you guys. This is let's just get the white ladies first. Okay. So
life is complicated is what it boils down to. Life is complicated. Yeah. There is no simple answer. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of looking at things in black and white, and it's not black and white. Life is complicated.
It isn't. It's very complicated. So we have to take the good where we can find it, I think. So,
yeah.
Where were we?
Back into the story. Okay. So, Muhammad had returned from the military with severe PTSD, and this affected his marriage with Mildred. He became abusive, unfaithful, and threatened to kill Mildred regularly. And by the late 1990s, their marriage was falling apart, and Mildred filed for divorce in 1999. When asked later why she didn't leave him sooner, she said that she was simply playing the role to which most Deep South Black girls were raised, that of a dutiful wife.
In February and March of 2000, Mildred filed domestic violence petitions against her estranged husband. A Pierce County judge granted her request for an uncontested permanent restraining order.
She complained of bizarre behavior, such as the morning Muhammad claimed that he had tapped her phones to destroy her. Another day, he forced his way into her house to see his son, John Jr., who was sick, prompting an emergency 911 call. The next day, he returned to the house. John came over to inform me that he will not let me raise our children. His demeanor is such that it is a threat to me, she wrote in a petition for order of protection. I am still fearful of him.
Yeah, she described in the podcast really chilling things, like he would break into her home and then just stand at the foot of her bed watching her sleep. And then she would wake up and he would be like, I'm going to kill you. But then he would leave.
Shit.
Yeah. I know.
God.
What? So on a Sunday in March 2000, Muhammad took the 3 children for a weekend visit, telling his wife that he would keep them overnight and take them to school in the morning. Instead, he took the children and disappeared, taking $521 from the bank account and borrowing $1,100 from a business partner, leaving Mildred penniless.
Muhammad took his children to Antigua, where his mother was from. He changed the kids' names so that Mildred couldn't find them. There they lived in a hovel without running water, and Muhammad eked out a living by fixing documents for islanders who wanted to migrate illegally to the U.S. He also began a relationship with the mother of Lee Malvo.
So here's our second character, Lee Boyd Malvo. His name in formal documents, though he has sometimes been known as John Lee Malvo, was born on February 18th, 1985 in Kensington, Jamaica, to Leslie Malvo and Una James. He spent his early childhood in Jamaica. A classmate described him as studious, polite, and well-dressed, but said that he did not make any friends. Teachers remember him as a conscientious A-grade pupil.
Around the year 2000, Malvo joined his mother Una James in Antigua, but Una soon left for Florida with Malvo, and Malvo attended Cypress Lake High School in Fort Myers, and Muhammad moved back to Washington with his children.
Meanwhile, Mildred was hiding in a women's refuge, distraught at losing her family and terrified of Muhammad. She continued to fight to find her children and get them back, but it would be 18 months before U.S. authorities traced the children when Muhammad attempted to claim child welfare in Washington. Now, she went all out. She hired a private investigator.
Wow.
She was working really hard to get these kids back.
Wow. So the children were reunited with their mother, and desperate to start a new life with her family, Mildred fled across the country with her children in September of 2001. She settled near her sister in the Maryland suburbs, just outside of Washington, D.C.
In October of 2001, Malvo left Florida and moved to Bellingham, Washington. Another place to join Muhammad. They lived together at the Lighthouse Mission, a Christian homeless shelter overlooking Puget Sound, about 130 miles north of Tacoma and 20 miles from the Canadian border. Muhammad told people Malvo was his son. Malvo's biological father, Leslie Malvo, a building contractor in Kingston, Jamaica, later called his son a nice kid, though he said he hadn't seen him for 4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and that kind of tells you what kind of relationship they had.
Right.
Not a very good one.
Nope.
In Bellingham, school officials were concerned that they had no records of Malvo's previous schooling and asked police to check into it. When a Bellingham police officer questioned Malvo on December 18th, Malvo said he was from Jamaica and was living at the shelter with his father. Muhammad was also in trouble for shoplifting, and the two disappeared before police could follow up.
From DNA testing to the Dixie Mafia, Crime Capsule brings you new stories of true crime in American history. I'm your host, Benjamin Morris. Join us for exclusive interviews with authors from Arcadia Publishing, writing the hottest books on the most chilling stories of our country's past. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts or on evergreenpodcasts.com. Crime Capsule. History so interesting, it's criminal.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the juicy timeline. So, before the shooting, which have been referred to as the DC sniper attacks, Muhammad and Malvo committed similar crimes across the country that were not linked until way later. These have been referred to as the preliminary crimes, quote unquote.
On February 16th, 2002, 21-year-old Kenya Cook was shot and killed at the front door of her aunt's home in Tacoma, Washington. Cook's aunt, Isla Nichols, had been good friends with John Allen Muhammad's ex-wife Mildred and had encouraged her to seek a divorce. There is circumstantial but not ballistic evidence that the killer was Lee Malvo.
On March 19, 2002, Jerry Taylor, 60 years old, was killed by a single shot to the chest fired from long range as he practiced chip shots at a Tucson, Arizona golf course. Muhammad's sister lived near the golf course, and he was visiting her during the shooting.
On August 1st, 2002, John Gaeta, 51, was changing a tire at a parking lot in Hammond, Louisiana, and was shot in the neck. The bullet exited through Gaeta's back, and he pretended to be dead while the shooter stole his wallet. He survived.
Woo! That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he got shot, but that he survived.
He did survive, yeah.
On September, I don't know why I'm laughing. Sorry.
I don't either. Inappropriate laughter.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Guilty. On September 5th, 2002 at 10:30 p.m., Paula LaRufa, a 55-year-old pizzeria owner, was shot 6 times at close range while locking up his Italian restaurant in Clinton, Maryland. LaRufa survived the shooting. Wow. And his laptop and computer was found in John Allen Muhammad's car when he and Malvo were arrested.
Wow. On September 11th, Muhammad and another man, Nathaniel Osborne, purchased a blue 1990 Chevrolet Caprice with 147 miles from Sure Shot Auto Sales Incorporated in Trenton, New Jersey. They paid $250 for the car. That is a cheap car.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to bargain shopping. September 14, 2002, Benny Oberoi, 22, was shot and wounded outside the Hillendale Beer and Wine Store in Silver Spring, Maryland. The shooting is linked by circumstances, witnesses, and location of the alleged snipers, but not ballistics. On September 15th, 2002, Muhammad Rashid was injured in a shooting at a Brandywine, Maryland liquor store.
On September 21st, 2002 at 12:15 a.m., 41-year-old Million A. Woldemariam was fatally shot in the head and back with a .22 caliber pistol in Atlanta, Georgia. Woldemariam was helping the owner of a Sammy's package store close up for the night when the shooting occurred. Police found a fingerprint on a weapon magazine in the parking lot. I have two things to say here.
Tell me.
First of all, do you know about package stores?
No, I assumed it was like a dollar store or a Walmart.
Nope. On the East Coast, liquor stores are called package stores.
What?
Yeah. When I lived in Connecticut, you had to go to the package store to buy liquor. They did not have liquor in the grocery store. So you had to go to a separate store to buy it, and they were called package stores. I don't know why. We called them packies.
Packies. Wait.
Go
so
to
are
the
package stores just liquor stores, or can you get other things there?
Just liquor, alcohol, beer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a liquor store.
Okay.
However you do that.
Pretty good. By the way, I was going to say, I've been doing that at work lately. So shout out to not being professional. But there's this straight edge white dude who I think used to even be a cop who is all about and he watches Blackish. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I like him.
He was so into it. Yeah, I like him too. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Packies.
So the first thing is about the package store. Yeah, they're just liquor stores.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was how police found a fingerprint on a weapon magazine in the parking lot. That's a cartridge for a weapon, right? For the gun.
Yes.
And I read in one article that it was a page from a weapons magazine, Malvo sitting out there reading a magazine about weapons.
Oh my God. So the publication clearly got it wrong.
Yeah, they're like, what?
He's reading magazines in front of his reading and committing crimes.
Yep, that's what he's doing.
What the fuck? Get out of here. You know what?
Hilarious.
You know what? Get the fuck out of here. My buttons aren't working. Come on. Oh my God. Hang on.
There you go.
Okay. So that's complete fuckery. On that publication's part.
I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, this has been fun. Okay, so what's next? Oh, here we go. Okay, so 19 hours later, on the same day, Claudine Parker, a 52-year-old liquor store clerk in Montgomery, Alabama, was shot in the chest and killed during a robbery. Her co-worker, a 24-year-old Kelly Adams, was critically wounded with a shot through the neck, but survived. Oh, yes, amen. Later, ballistics are a match to a Bushmaster .223 rifle, and eyewitness accounts link the DC snipers. There we go. We got him.
We got it. On September 23, 2002 at 6:30 p.m., 45-year-old Hong M. Ballinger was shot in the head. and killed with a Bushmaster rifle in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Muhammad and Malvo were later linked to the killing.
So what we see now is the killers are making their way across the United States. Now we are going to get into the DC sniper attack specifically. This is when the authorities realized that they had a killer on the loose. So take it away, Beth.
So the first sniper attack occurred on October 2nd, 2002 at 5:20 p.m. when a shot was fired through the window of a Michael's Crafts store in Aspen Hill. The bullet narrowly missed Ann Chapman, a cashier at the store. Since no one was injured, no serious alarms were raised. However, approximately 1 hour later at 6:30 p.m., James Martin, a 55-year-old program analyst at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, was shot and killed in the parking lot of a Shoppers Food Warehouse grocery store in Wheaton.
On the morning of October 3rd, 4 people were shot dead within a span of approximately 2 hours in Aspen Hill and other nearby areas in Montgomery County. Another was killed that evening in the Tacoma neighborhood of the District of Columbia. Not Tacoma, Washington, but in the neighborhood of District Columbia.
It's confusing, but yeah.
Just to be clear, yeah. So, at 7:41 a.m., James L. Buchanan, a 39-year-old landscaper known as Sonny, was shot dead near Rockville, Maryland. Buchanan was shot while moving the grass at the Fitzgerald Auto Mills. Let me see that sentence. Let me see that whole thing again. Okay.
He was moving the grass.
I don't know.
Just moving
some
it.
activities white people do. I don't know. So
I don't know. White people, they're funny.
I don't know. White people are funny and they do weird things. I don't know. My husband, my old whitey's out here like blowing leaves. Why?
He's moving
Why
the
are you
leaves.
doing that? He's moving the leaves, whatever. Okay. Anyway, and digging holes and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so at 7:41 a.m., James L. Buchanan, a 39-year-old landscaper known as Sonny, was shot dead near Rockville, Maryland. Buchanan was shot while mowing the grass at the Fitzgerald Auto Malls. At 8:12 a.m., 54-year-old part-time taxi driver Prem Kumar Walekar was killed in Aspen Hill in Montgomery County while pumping his gas in his taxi at a Mobile station.
At 8:37 p.m., Sarah Ramos, a 34-year-old babysitter and housekeeper, was killed at the Leisure World Shopping Center in Norbeck as she was sitting on a bench reading a book.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. That's sad. At 9:58 a.m., in what was to be the last killing that morning, 25-year-old Lori Ann Lewis Rivera was killed while vacuuming her Dodge Caravan at a Shell station in Kensington, Maryland.
Oh no.
Yeah, these are all sad.
Yeah, very much so.
The snipers then waited until 9:20 p.m. before shooting Pascal Charlotte, a 72-year-old retired carpenter, while he was walking on Georgia Avenue at Kalmia Road in Washington, D.C. Charlotte died less than an hour later.
In each shooting, the victims were killed by a single bullet fired from the same distance, and in each case, the killer struck and then vanished. Fear quickly spread throughout the region as news of the shooting spread. Local residents, frightened by the seemingly random nature of the shootings, which crossed racial, gender, and even will learn age, because they shot a 13-year-old boy who lived, which was good, and socioeconomic lines, crouched behind their cars while pumping gas and avoided outdoor activities. So schools held recess indoors and sports teams canceled outdoor practices.
The killers also left a series of cryptic clues at crime scenes, including tarot cards and notes, and they even called the police hotline, apparently trying to engage investigators in a dialogue.
Yeah, but they hung up on them. So that is where we're going to leave it today. That's the end of it for this episode. Tune in next week. Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media.
This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
Hello, this is Gary Chahot welcoming you to check out the French History Podcast. Our main show covers the history of France from the first humans until present. If you liked Mike Duncan's The History of Rome and wanted a similar program covering the land of beauty, culture, and love, we are exactly that. We also host world-renowned scholars who have delivered guest episodes on their specialties, including 18th century pirates, revolutionary booksellers in 20th century Paris, the special friendship between the Marquis de Lafayette and Thomas Jefferson, and numerous others. Learn what you love and listen to the French History Podcast today.
My name is Bill Huffman, and I am a former Cleveland news producer, and I am now the host of the podcast, Who Killed? I began the show focusing on the unsolved murder of Amy Mihaljevic, and now each week I explore a different case with a focus on some of the victims who don't get the attention they deserve. I have a deep catalog of over 225 episodes, so there is a guarantee there will be something for you. Who Killed is an evergreen podcasts, killer podcasts, and slow burn media production. Subscribe today wherever you get your favorite shows.